These are red light.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Welcome, September 25th, 2023, Blackfoot County Advisory DD Council Coalition. One or the other, they all have the same to be sometime. But last year we're doing a remote kind of thing and a live type of thing, trying to see what needs to be improved. If they need to hear me more, that makes me a little bit worried. But we will try to do better than actual television in the next couple of years. Michael, the type of meeting, I think those who are in person, I think those who are online, and do we have quorum? Would be my first question.
Let's see here. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes, 6. Here, we do have a quorum.
We do have a quorum. So now we have to do approval of the minutes of the last time. Unfortunately, thank you. Thank you. Unfortunately, we do not have the agenda in front of me, but do we have a consent agenda and those are in front of approval? To those who have looked at the consent agenda, any objections of the agenda and what we are speaking about today? On either side of the live side or the other side. Okay. That's why I would rather use my Bluetooth hearing aids and other microphone system. Is it better on the echo side, Lisa? No, still hear the echo because the omnidirectional mic. Got it.
Is it echoing for everybody or just Lisa?
Yeah, it's everyone.
It's everybody. It is. It has to be because it's the only one mic.
Yeah, I need you to add some plants and some more furniture to your room.
No, we need some soundproofing and some audiology technology in that side. That's what we need. Because you got the walls up here and you have the blue lights and all that stuff. All right.
That's actually a little better.
I hope we can find a system that would have a single mic system in a way that we can multi, put this in. That'll be with technology. I'll keep on pressing for a better scenario next time. But any objections on the consent agenda? It sounds like it's been approved as given out and approved here in person, so we will continue with the agenda. First item on my list that I have outside of hi, how you doing? Hope you guys are okay. It's the FPA conference. What conference? Anyone from Blackfoot County that may or may not have participated in the service coordinator PA, but you guys out there in public is where personal agents and service coordinators go to get the service hours and other topics talked about in the thing. Kim, why don't you tell us what the FPA conference is, and then we'll go down the chain, see what's best.
Well, the service coordinator, personal agent is what you said it is an opportunity for service coordinators, personal agents, and I believe this year included advocates and members of DD advisory councils and individuals provide training opportunities and panel participate in, as well as a networking opportunity.
So anything on here that I'm forgetting that we added this on the agenda for Blackfoot County, anyone that's gone to it, any news that you wanted from either me, myself, or others that may have gone to it? That needs some questions from Blackfoot County on this in ways that we continue this conference.
I think we were just allowing space for anyone who was at the conference or who participated in the conference to give some feedback on how they thought things went or if they wanted to share their experience.
Yeah. On my side, I did a presentation on another behalf in ways of ableism. The conference went fine on that end, but what I heard from advocates in certain areas or pockets where service of care on the outer sides of the conferences. That's mostly what I've seen in the hotel, service of care to other outside community voices that need to be, maybe better in tune to who they are with people with disabilities. So, yeah, it's already all the way 100% audio, original sound for musicians. You can scroll down. Sorry, we're doing our audio setting. That's all I see. The options. So it sounds like we got omnidirectional again still. Yeah, so that's what I did on my side on the conference. It was nice to hear Anna include the advocate side. I did put Brooks not here, but I did put some concern to the excuse me, another conference that I went to about how ODDS services on the community side should be included in these conferences. Went to inclusive conference that had inclusion and certain other aspects. So know that I'm doing the best I can on the council in Clackamas County to represent in ways that these voices are heard outside of other side voices that are related or not related to state services. So that's my objection. If you guys have any questions, that'll be fine. Anyone else that maybe went to the service coordinator PA conference? Am I gonna call one out?
There's a question about transcription being turned on in the chat. With the type of Zoom that we have a HIPAA compliant Zoom. We don't have a closed caption option for the audio.
Thank you. I thought maybe it would help.
No, it should help, and I would try to get through that too in ways of communication in county and statewide ideal, though I understand and respect the department's decision, so.
It's not a department decision,
It's a council decision, right?
it's a county, it's the license that we purchased, I guess, with the Zoom. It doesn't allow for us to be able to do the transcription.
All right. Lisa, I know you were at the council, at the PA conference. Any update on your end, or would you rather just, it's fine, but I'm just wondering what was your experience? You don't have to say if you don't want to.
Did you ask what my experience was with the conference?
Yes. Yes.
Okay,
You do not
sorry.
need to answer if you don't feel comfortable, that's fine.
No, I'm okay. I can. I thought it was a great time. I don't have a previous conference to compare it to, so it was all new for me. But it definitely offered lots of resources that I wasn't expecting to be able to find there. I really did enjoy that they allowed advocates to attend. I thought it was great. I hope that I have an opportunity to go to the next one. I would definitely go.
So my question is for people here, included those, some are included into the conversation, but those who may or may not in the council or whatnot, what would make you guys feel more welcome into these conferences, even though you may or may not have the time or the voice in ways that the county can speak on your behalf? Like calling. Yeah, I know that I have a voice with Lisa a lot, so I don't know, I'm not gonna say she did or not, but. Is there a way that you guys can feel more included in these type of conferences when they may or may not be?
Stacy said it was a little bit clearer when it was responding to just scooch in.
That's fine. I definitely willing to do that.
John, I'd be interested in going. I'd be interested in going. I just have to get it on my calendar early,
Yeah.
make sure. Make sure I could, but I'd be interested in going.
All right, so how should we if there was a cap number to these conferences, how can we make this a more inclusive environment where the county can be more inclusive in the process, give or take, numbers or allowing consideration? For myself, I have no problem to go on other edges, which I found that sometimes counties can't answer questions, or you go to another department kind of like. But I do want the county to include you guys in these opportunities, give or take the topic and how it goes. So how is the council, we can move forward a voice in ways that it can happen? Any ideas? Stacy or Kim? In a way that maybe happened in the past?
I'm not sure I know exactly what you're asking,
What I'm
but,
trying to ask is in next year, they have a cap of three people per county. Or
Oh,
advocates
I
in
wasn't
ways
even
of
aware of
three,
that.
or 1 or 2 people like they did. I'm asking how we as a council can be more inclusive of those who do not have access to this information or have writers or legal jargon that includes them in these type of environments. I want them to feel included in these type of events, even though they may or may not have that access. So my question is, I'm not just doing it on behalf of advocates. I'm doing it on behalf of those who may not have those resources or time or that demographic, in ways that we can have these conversations later in different conferences that are given, if it's coordinated conferences or other ideas. And maybe even foster homes through other things where some people in this conference were not allowed to be in it. I don't know if it was foster homes or some other new type of conference idea that, you know, they too were concerning that they were not included into this environment.
interesting. I didn't realize that there was a cap on the number of, council members or people outside of service coordinators that could
Okay.
participate. So certainly we could advocate that there not be a cap, if we know that something like that is occurring. I do think that was a conference that was absent due to the pandemic and just starting back up. So, and it was in a brand new location. So I think ODDS just sort of, worked there as hard as they could to try to get it back going again. But I think there's lots of improvements that can be made. And I also think there's opportunity to give feedback about this through, like they've asked for a lot of feedback from us and that's something that we could certainly share with them. We can do it individually, but we could also do it as a county, provide them that kind of feedback.
Am I missing something in between here? Okay. All right, so that's that part of it. I appreciate the input. I know that we have to do what we have to do and all that, but I do think it's important for those to be accommodated and how to approach those issues when they do or do not come out. Any questions on like service coordinators in a way that they may or may not be including these people that are in conferences? Are you getting the same information from different conferences, or you guys think that you guys should have a voice in other types of conferences also?
I think the only thing I can contribute is it's titled, SPPA conference, so I would just assume that it didn't include adult foster homes.
Exactly.
So that's where I stand on that. So
yeah.
I would just assume that it wasn't for me.
Yeah, it would be nice to know the other conferences in hand that are included from other environments, definitely from the state with equity and other grants, including the inclusive leadership summit that I'm fighting, for you guys' voice to be included later on.
I didn't.
Yeah, please.
I didn't hear about it at all from my coordinator, and I wasn't aware that it was an open event. I thought it was just for service coordinators.
Yeah. And I also, if I was gonna be outside of the angle of self-advocacy, I too would have, if I was just Clackamas County, would have felt the same way. So that's something to maybe push forward in, later conversations with, ODDS. As, it could be an exclusive conference, but if it is more inclusive in ways that emergency preparedness, like what Lisa was on, or what I was on with the ableism portion, it'll be nice to know, that type of idea in ways of inclusion, give or take, where the state needs to take it. Because I do understand they need to have their own hours, but once, it would be nice to have that communication. From other grants and other things of opportunities that or other opportunities that may be presenting itself in the future. All right, Sarah, thank you.
So do you know, is there access to like a transcript or anything? Is there access to any of the, discussion in any way, recording, anything like that? So that whether or not there's a cap next year, if people can't go, if we don't know about it in advance, or feel like, or we just can't go for any reason, if there's access to the material, and if we could comment or ask questions after the fact, that would be helpful.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get to for Clackamas County to take the notes on and how to follow up, at least.
Yeah, I see Lisa was there because she was on a parent panel. You were there because you knew it from the advocacy group. But now that I think about it, when we got all of that information, it was only around service coordinators and PAs, which is why I didn't, in any of the information I saw that came from ODDS, it didn't say to share it with families. And so I apologize if we missed that, and you're right, the title was SCPA conference as well. So we
It
can
was.
certainly, I think there's a lot of feedback to be had if we were supposed to have done that, and we can need to advocate for those type of opportunities in the future, regardless. So I appreciate that. You bringing this forward, John.
Yeah, I'm in the middle. I mean, it is what it is. It's like conversations on sides, that, you can only do what you can do on that type of idea.
So I couldn't find the agenda, and so she was forwarding me the agenda, and we didn't want to interrupt your.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Josh.
Yep.
I appreciate it. All right, what time is it? 5 o'clock? Looks like it might be your time, Stacy, with something about eligibility data, which we love our data, and I do have a side question on data in ways of quality control later on, but let's hear your eligibility data that you have.
Okay. Well, I've put together a little bit of a presentation, so I'll share my screen in just a minute. And I realized that I'm not going to focus really on biennium data, but it'll show you a little bit of data and trends over the years with our eligibility, but it really focuses on the last fiscal year. It's all I had time to put together so far. I was at a program manager conference last week, so I only got so far on this, but I'm going to share my screen. And if somebody wants to watch for raise hands or comments or whatever, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to see that, but feel free to interrupt me if you need to and you want to ask questions. Okay, give me one moment. 1 second here. Share my screen. I need to put it in presentation mode. Maybe. There we go. Are you seeing my screen? In the first page, I stole an old eligibility presentation, so the graphics came directly off of that. This is not something I came up with at the last second. So what I'm going to talk with you all a little bit about today is I thought it might be good to start with kind of who we are and what our intake and eligibility team does for the county. If you ever want them to come talk specifically to the council more in depth about what they do, what our eligibility criteria is, things like that, we can surely have them come back. But I'm just going to focus on a few things and give you some information about our fiscal year data for 22-23. So I don't know if any of you are familiar with our eligibility team. They're the front door to our services. These are our 4 eligibility specialists. The first 3, Annie, Stephanie, and Brianna, focus on individual intakes, helping people go through the process to have eligibility determined initially. And then Ann and Non is our eligibility specialist who focuses primarily on redetermining eligibility for individuals who are already in service for us. And I directly supervise this team. That's our intake line, FYI. It was on the slide. Not that you need it. And I can also give these to Amy to send out in the minutes if you want these slides. I'm going to tell you a little bit about what our eligibility team does before I tell you about the data for the last fiscal year, just so you have kind of a perspective of the team and how they operate. So our eligibility specialists, there are 4 of them. They provide a lot of individualized support to people through our intake process and also with making all of the eligibility decisions. And some of the activities that they do are on a day-to-day basis are they answer our intake line, and we have an intake line number I just showed you. They get referrals through that intake line. They answer that line every single day. They take turns. And when they're speaking with people, they are completing intake interviews often over the phone after they answer this line, but they can also do intake interviews via telehealth or in person as well. They provide whatever individualized support the individual or the family needs through when somebody's applying for services through us. Once they speak to somebody and have an intake interview, they customize application packets to the individual that's focused on where to get their records and information so we can make an eligibility decision. They send these application packets out in the mail. When they come back to us in the mail, that we start processing people's applications, which includes requesting records, providing general resource information, and they follow that applicant they're working with all the way through the intake process until an eligibility decision is made, which can take, up to 90 days, sometimes more or often actually more if we're required. We have to get updated testing in order to make an eligibility decision. We also complete all the eligibility redeterminations. Again, those are when individuals are in services with us. Kids specifically, they're provisionally eligible. They have to have their eligibility redetermined at certain ages. And again, Ananon does all of our eligibility redeterminations right now. When our team is helping people through the intake process or doing a redetermination, they're often coordinating testing so that we need in order to make a decision. And that's also what's called an administrative exam or admin exam that we help access, and we coordinated 200 admin exams last year, an average of 17 per month, which I think is quite impressive given the fact that we're coming out of the pandemic with very few testing resources. So I was actually kind of surprised by that number. I thought it was higher than I anticipated when I was looking at the data. This team has also historically participated in community outreach events. They did 9 last year. I would say that was a little bit low of what we were doing pre-pandemic. We averaged about 1 outreach event per month. But there were 9 last year, mostly through schools and agencies who contacted us to do presentations via telehealth. This team is always providing consultation to community partner agencies. So that's like talking to folks from voc rehab, child welfare, behavioral health, APD, you name it, where people are calling us saying, hey, this is what's going on. Might this individual child or whoever benefit from your services or be appropriate for your services? They do a lot of speaking with other community partner agencies about the appropriateness of a possible referral to our program. The other thing that this team does is we verify all the eligibility for incoming transfers from other case management entities. So when people move into our county, we accept their eligibility always when they move. So their services transfer from county to county, but we still have to verify it. We have to do an enrollment into our system. And I actually am still doing all of those for our team right now. And the other thing they do is track a lot of monthly eligibility data. So let me show you some of the data. So again, this is for last fiscal year, 2022. So starting in July 1st of 2022 through June 30th, 2023. For total enrollments, we had 363 new enrollments in our county the last fiscal year. This is broken down by month. You can see month by month. I highlighted the 50 because in 22 years that I've been doing this, hands down, that was the largest number of enrollments we've ever had in 1 month is 50. It's still a number that just kind of jumps off the screen at me personally, but that's why I highlighted it there on the screen for you. Of the 363 enrollments, 179 of those were brand new eligible kids. That was 49% of our enrollments were newly eligible children. 90 of those enrollments were newly eligible adults. And then adults are interesting because some of them get assigned at the county program, and some of them get assigned to brokerages directly from intake. And it's about 50-50, honestly, who the county serves versus who gets referred directly to a brokerage. And so there's the breakdown there of those numbers. But, you know, adults are about 25% of our overall enrollments, half of them with the CDDP, and roughly half of them are directly referred to a brokerage from intake. And then the other 25% of our enrollments are incoming county transfers. And this number is likely going to be way higher this next fiscal year. We have really, really high county transfer numbers coming into our program, a lot of adult residential. So. Any questions about this so far? These numbers?
Why do you think that May was so high?
You know, well, you know, we are coming out of the public health emergency. I don't know if that has anything to do with it. Historically, honestly, May has always been high in our program, and it's often the last push at the end of the school year to get kids connected to us. So historically, May is always high, but I want to say that 30 of those were newly eligible kids, if I am my data correctly, which is we've never seen anything like it. So our enrollment actually has stayed consistently high this last fiscal year, coming out of the public health emergency, as schools are getting more functional again, as primary care doctors are, you know, seeing families or individuals in person and making more referrals to us, things like that. So I don't know the full reason for May, but we've been really, really high this entire fiscal year. So, Lisa?
Sorry, I was trying to put my hand down because that was my exact question.
Oh.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So
It
my
is
question,
Yeah.
my question is, when the K plan was instituted in 2015 or whatnot, was May and certain other numbers the same percentage of increase that you are seeing past this legislative session? In ways of, because you're saying how high it is now this year in ways of post-COVID and beyond, not just legislative session, but you know, post-COVID. Is there something also related in the spike of numbers past the K plan that we should realize that may or may not be implemented in the next year's quality eligibility data that may or may not be similar or not similar, since there are more options for more people at the county level nowadays than there were in 2010 before the K plan. So again, I'm asking, is there a similar spike since the K plan, and what was the spike that I am unaware of because I'm a new advocate that may or may not should be realized in the eligibility data that you see today than there was when it was first implemented at the K plan?
I can show I have a chart here in a minute that you can show like the consistent growth over a year. You'll see a constant growth every year. Our numbers have remained high and just have consistently grown. And so there was a growth with K plan. There's a growth now coming out of the pandemic. But our enrollments were always growing. We really have not shown any slowing in terms of growth in our particular county. So does that answer your question, John?
It does too, if it's the same as K plan, Sarah. Thank you.
I was just curious, I'm sorry, what's the criteria for being referred directly to a brokerage versus the CDP?
Good question.
Yes, you have to be an adult, so it's 18 or over, and receiving in-home services or case management only, not residential services. Any adult who is interested or wanting to receive residential stays with the county program, but adults 18 and over who want to receive in-home service have the choice of getting their services through a brokerage, which we work with 5 brokerages in the metro area, or the county program. And during the intake process, all adults are given this information to try to make a choice of where they want to go. If they're determined eligible, who do you want to receive your services from? And they can choose CDDP, they can choose one of our brokerages, they can choose whoever has the first available opening. And so it depends. And if they don't choose, by default, they go to the county program and we continue to do choice advising with them. once they're eligible, and also at least annually to see if they would rather go to a brokerage or stay with the county, so.
Thank you.
Sasha?
I'm wondering how many of those adults are like transitions from children's services to adult services?
On right here, none of them.
Okay,
Yeah, none of these are new enrollments to our county, so they're not any kids already in service turning 18 and going to adult. That
Okay.
they are not captured in this data.
I was just gonna add that, at any point during, as an adult in services in home, you can choose to go to brokerage. It doesn't have, you don't have to wait till your annual mark. And then the children's case managers or service coordinators do choice advising once the child turns 18. And so they do that with everybody then as well, if they decide they want to go to brokerage or stay with us.
Can we put the chat log on this?
Yeah, it'll pop up.
No, I understand.
All right.
Thank you. I do have a question. On choice advising, how often do you do that with your client that are not new?
That are
How
not
often
new,
do you do choice advising to
At
the clients
least-
that are not new?
at least annually, and as often as needed. And anytime somebody wants to, like, if they might be moving to a different service element, it might be happening. But at minimum annually, but it can happen as often as somebody wants to talk about their choices and revisit what their options are. So.
Does anyone else have any questions like Colleen or others? Because I have about 2 more follow-ups and not about any of this, so.
I have a question about the types of choice counseling. As an adult foster care provider, sometimes it's done really well, sometimes it is not done really well. So is there some sort of like guideline or like, I mean, I know that's probably a really hard question to answer, but I feel like sometimes choice counseling could be a little bit better.
Agreed. I'm not going to cover choice counseling specifically on this data today.
Yeah.
But the state, I mean, I don't know if you all went to the SCPA conference and attended a session on choice advising, but the state is revamping some training materials that will actually go live. I hear that session at the conference did not go very well. I'm actually part of a debrief next week or the week after about this choice advising training. And it's probably a future topic we could revisit too. Because yes, it can often go maybe better than it has been. And the state is definitely working on some different guidelines around because choice advising can mean different things, right? It can mean you're applying for services for the first time. Where do you want to get your services from? That's the part we do here in intake. And then once you're in services, if you're a child or adult, we could be talking about different service options. And then if you're in a specific service like residential and people want to try to exercise a different choice, like that conversation might look a little bit different. Like, so choice advising can mean lots of different things. And it might be a future topic we want to like specifically focus on, because I definitely am not going to cover that all here today.
Put that on the notes and maybe we can make that onto the traffic lanes of conversation. What made it so go back, and this is my question, but you mentioned it. What you heard made that conference maybe crash and burn? Maybe
Well,
I don't want to put you on the spot.
I wasn't
but
there. I
Alright.
wasn't there. I heard for the choice
how can we
advising
as a
session,
public better communicate to those who are presenting the presentation in ways that we can drive the information in a better light of what they're trying to communicate? Because I was in a conference and we had a crash and burn situation. I don't remember what one it was. Maybe it was that one. I don't remember. But it was, how can I better communicate with them, the department, and how can we get the information that's needed for 2025 and what we're hearing in certain aspects. And so, I mean, that's just, something that I'm wondering how we can be better while you go in this post, conference, meeting. Is that making sense a little bit?
Yeah, is Kim wanting to answer that question or does she
Yeah,
have a
well, I
question
was
of
just
her
gonna say,
own?
you know, on this, in this particular one, from what we understand, it was derailed really by one particular person. And that it wasn't about the presentation or the topic, or, you know, how it was presented. There were multiple different people presenting on that particular topic, but that it was, somewhat taken over by one person or disrupted. But then it, you know, various people have said also that it then kind of proceeded and went okay through to the end. So that one was just one situation that we became aware of.
All right.
So that's what that one was related to.
Good.
I think
I
it
have
could have been done any better than it was. I think it was.
Yeah, there's just some
probably
people in
done
the department
fine.
that we get along with.
And someone in the audience that derailed.
My fault. Sometimes we get, you know, along with some people in some departments and sometimes we don't. So I mean, that's what I'm trying to get to the core, trying to realize how at the council we can grow on that communication, how we can communicate. Yeah.
Stacy, I just had a quick question, talking about enrollments, from child foster care homes into adult services. You said that choice counseling began at 18. Didn't it recently just change where children can stay in their homes up to what age was it? Was it 20?
Yeah,
Three?
yeah, something did change with that. I mean, yes,
Is it
I was
23
just
now?
is it 20? I don't know if it's 23. Is it 21?
It was 21, and I mean, they can request, they can request, it was that you could home, and that especially if they're going to school and they want to stay in their school district, that was an option. I'm not totally familiar with what the other change was, but choice advising, it actually should be occurring with individuals and their families starting more like at 16 or 17 and a half, or 17, just because those decisions don't just happen overnight, right? You have to kind of want to investigate and what they are, but yeah, it should start a little bit sooner than 16 or than 18, but I do know there are options for children to be able to stay in their homes longer now.
Yeah, I had one follow-up question now of all of it. When you get your new data and everything like that, you say brokerages, Stacy. I know brokerages from the K plan. Are they the same companies or is there just a different angle where I do not realize any CDDP clients at all of what I've experienced in my life? I know we don't, wear a name badge on it, but as an advocate, it's been very hard to decipher if the advocates on the CDDP program have a voice on the brokerage side, knowing that CDDP services are different than K-Plan brokerage services, so I feel that way. So what am I missing on your clients when I don't see your face or the equity director's Brooks face or any other faces? What am I missing? I mean, I know I'm beginning in advocacy land, but with this data that you're enrolling so many people, I would think I'll at least bump into one Clackamas County, CDDP brokerage client outside of Special Olympics fame and other community partners that are not really directed to state services.
We have well over 800 adults in Clackamas County enrolled into 5 different brokerages in our county. So I don't know the answer to that question.
It's just something to know. I understand there may be a couple, but it is interesting how there's no cross collaboration when I see some pattern that I might be missing myself. But it is an interesting note when I see people in other organizations outside of their own special organizations, like fame, like Special Olympics and others that are coming up as history may or may not repeat itself. So thank you very much for, the data. I appreciate it.
Okay, all right, is it okay if I move on through this
Please.
data? It's again, not gonna focus on choice advising, it's really focusing on intake and eligibility stuff. And then when we're done, if there's something we want to loop back at later, we could certainly bring more information back to the council. Okay, I was gonna
Yeah.
show you next a little bit about some of our intake data. Like the number of intake interviews our intake and eligibility team does versus how many application packets go out in the mail versus how many come back to us. And so this is just some overall, our intake and eligibility team is very, very busy. If you can't tell, I mean, we work 4 days a week, and many of these numbers we're processing more than, more determinations than there are work days in a year. And so they're very, very busy. And it's a highly skilled group of individuals. Just to give you an idea of the volume, when they're doing their monthly intake interviews, last fiscal year, they did 554 of them. Out of those 554 intake interviews, that resulted in them sending out 521 application packets. So it was, after that interview, the family or the individual said, yes, I want to apply. They went through that whole process, gathered the information, customized a packet, sent it to them. And, our services are voluntary. So it really is up to them at that point to decide if they want to continue to apply for services, and we'll offer them whatever level of support they need to do that, including helping them with the paperwork, whatever it might be. But out of those packets we sent out, as you'll see, quite a lot less come back actually to start the application process, but we still received 361 applications back to process last year. That's an average of 30 new applications every month in our county. And again, those are primarily managed by 3 eligibility specialists, all the applications and intakes. This is kind of to show you the trends. John, you asked questions about trends over the year. This is sort of shows you what the workload in eligibility has been since 2006. And 2006 is when I started keeping the data. I started here in 2001. It was just me, myself, and I, the only person for the entire county for many, many years. And then eventually, got some assistance around 2007, I would say. Over the years, we've added additional eligibility specialists. Right after K-Plan rolled out in 14-15, one of our eligibility specialists, I did all of the initial intake, and the other person did all the redeterminations. When that person left, we hired 2 eligibility specialists. And as you can see, the workload just continues to grow. So 2020, 22, 23, like between eligible kids, transfers, adults, redeterminations, these are like all of the decisions this team is processing. And it did not slow down during the pandemic. I think you can tell by this chart that we did not see a reduction in work at all during the pandemic.
I see that.
Yeah. And again, this is a lot to decipher, but I'll send it out. You may want to look more closely at it. And I am always available for any questions or comments or whatever you might have.
Yeah. I think I'll put a note to get a slide deck presentation for us here personally. Tessa?
Yeah, can you explain what is the workload of an intake? Like how many hours does it take to do an intake?
Okay. I don't know if I can tell you how many hours it takes, but I can tell you that the intake process and the tracking goes on for quite some time. So, I mean, it starts before the intake is the gathering the information on the phone, sending the application out. When it comes back, that's when we actually start tracking an intake. We have 90 days from there to try to get somebody through the eligibility process, but we are gathering the record. Most people don't give us any documentation when they're applying, and we have to gather all the history. So they're getting releases signed, they're gathering all the records, they're following up, they're pulling files every 30 days, following up to gather any missing documentation. They're coordinating testing to get oftentimes it's the adaptive assessment that's missing, but coordinating testing to get the testing that's needed to make a determination. They may be following that file anywhere from, 30 days to, honestly, it could go on for a year, because we also now have a presumptive eligibility criteria. So people can be made presumptively eligible if there's enough documentation to show that they are clearly should be eligible for DD services. We can make them presumptively eligible for up to a year, but it doesn't mean we're done in eligibility. We keep them for up to the whole next year till we can make a full determination. So it can be from 30 days to, it can go on for months with one person in the intake and eligibility process. And I don't even know how to begin to put that in hours for you.
Okay, because when I did the math on it, it's like maybe one person a day for 3 people. Like for each person.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're probably always working with, well, our redeterminations, she probably has 100 people that are in process. They start a year ahead of time. And then all of our eligibility specialists have about 45 ongoing files they're always working on. And then added, obviously, new ones when they come in.
Do you have any ideas for how we can streamline the eligibility process? If you could wave a magic wand, how would you fix it?
Well, we have a couple of things we're already doing. Well, more testing resources would help us drastically streamline the eligibility process. Or people have, developmental programs, I think you're aware, have long wait lists. So like OHSU, Providence, some of them just totally fell apart during the pandemic and didn't see anybody. And they have really long wait lists for services. School eligibility doesn't match our criteria, so they don't always do an adaptive assessment. And then our testing resources are limited. So the thing that takes the longest is when we need testing for somebody. That is the thing that keeps the process from moving faster, is having enough testing resources in a timely manner. We do have a couple options now. We have the presumptive eligibility criteria. Again, it's for the most clearly eligible individuals. And in a medical record, or there's documentation that would show you that. It is not for individuals who are applying that have a lot of co-occurring, like mental health diagnoses and things like that could be impacting their adaptive functioning. So, but we do have that option to help streamline our process. It just is not that many people meet that particular criteria. And there's also a pilot project we're starting, I'll tell you about in a minute, called Expedited Assessment Services for Youth, the EASY project. And it's for kids who are in multi-system involvement and at risk of having to go into be placed in temp lodging through DHS Child Welfare. And we're just now launching that. In fact, last week, I've been working on it. So we have a couple of things in the works to streamline the process. But as long as our OARs haven't changed and we have a certain amount of criteria we have to have, it really comes down to having the testing resources, which we're always looking for.
Sarah?
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Just sorry, I don't want to take too much time, but so just so I know, because my daughter is 18, is there, once they become an adult, is there another eligibility redetermination, or like, does that still need to be done X number of years, or?
If they're already adult eligible, like, it depends when you're turning 18. If you're already adult eligible under the intellectual disability criteria, then you don't have a scheduled redetermination. Okay. Yes, if you have a psych eval 5 years from now that says you're no longer eligible, we have to consider that. It's very rare that anything like that occurs.
Sure.
But if you're provisionally eligible still at 18 and you have to have your eligibility redetermined by 22, then you may have it one more time. Once you're eligible as an adult, generally you are not on track to have your eligibility redetermined in the future.
Great. Okay. Thank you.
And then my follow-up on my side would be eligibility professionals. I know we're desperate for them, Stacy, and I know, and I understand that and respect that, but I would like them to be categorized in the levels that they may or not be categorized, because if I do someone that does a lot of Albertini code eligibility systems, the language is gonna be much different than the levels that I'm gonna be put in. And how that could affect the rest of my life at
Yep.
18 plus, like what Sarah was saying, in ways of not being reintroduced until they ask for it, behavior specialists do other things. That is something just to note for the notes for later on in life, where it may or may not be affected, where one person might be having one language and one thing, but you have other slides maybe?
Yeah. I have just a couple other, I'll do them quickly, and it's just, and I don't even know if this is of interest, so I'll do these slides quickly. I'll stop sharing my screen and we'll see if you have other questions. I was just going to share quickly like how the pandemic impacted this work. So just a couple of things really quickly, and again, we can talk more about some things later. You know, this team, our team had no remote tools when the pandemic started. Our service coordinators did, but the eligibility team didn't. We've gone from a completely paper-driven system to now a system is still has paper. That state of Oregon still requires that paper application and ROIs. However, the majority of our work we definitely have transitioned to be able to complete this work remotely. There was a 3-month period during the pandemic where they halted all of our redeterminations. So they wouldn't let us do any work on any of the redeterminations. And then they started it back up, and larger counties like ours really struggled to, that creates a backlog that you have to keep things moving in larger counties. And so we're doing pretty good. Larger counties are still trying to recover from simply that 3-month pause. Our county's doing pretty good. And on a case-by-case basis, we can still ask for eligibility extensions. So we're never denying people because we didn't have time to get them through the process. We can work situationally with ODDS to extend eligibility for people who are already in service until we can get it done. And so we still work with them on those processes. There was the presumptive eligibility rule that they put in place because of COVID specifically during the pandemic, when we could not send people for testing and things like that. This is now not COVID related, and it's actually permanent in our rule to help some of the more clearly eligible folks get through our process faster. And then of course, our psychologists were able to move to telehealth evaluations for things like adaptive assessments. So that shifted our work, and some of those things are still being done. IQ testing still has to be done in person. It cannot be done over telehealth anymore, and it really should never have been, because that's not how a IQ test is set up to be administered. But and I was going to tell you about a few things that are happening right now in eligibility. So we do have one I call her brand new, she's 6 months, but we added a new eligibility specialist, which has helped this team tremendously manage the workload. We talked, I think, in a previous council meeting about we had hired onboarding service coordinators. Honestly, we promoted a couple people in our program. These folks are transitioning from current caseloads, but they are actually going to be able to provide some resources to families in the intake process. Even if they don't end up being eligible, getting people access to resources, because everybody may need resources. They can do some of the choice advising around the brokerage versus CDDP early on. They're going to be doing some of that. Right now, our entire eligibility team is going through their individual core competency reviews with ODDS. They annually review their competency, give them a score for them to remain certified to continue to make eligibility decisions. And they're all going through that now, and they're all doing very well. And then this EASY project I just talked about, we're just now launching. And I put the website because there's not really going to be enough time to explain all of it to you now. I can certainly come back and talk about it. But essentially, this expedited assessment services for youth is this it is families in desperate need of service. There's multi-system involvement. They're at risk of being involved in juvenile child welfare, being placed in temporary lodging. And there is concern that the child may have a developmental disability. And within 7 to 10 days, if they're approved, the referrals go directly through that website. And if one is approved and it comes to Clackamas County, we've got 7 to 10 days to get them to get the evaluation complete. And Mind Sites in Portland or area, they're they have a lot of psychologists. They're the ones that are doing the evaluation and the testing. We will connect with the families to help with all the application and paperwork. And if they're eligible, these folks will be through our process within 2 to 3 weeks. And maybe faster than that, depending. And so this is it's kind of a pilot. It's really a demonstration project with very few referrals. If it's successful, they want to launch it statewide. And so more to come on that, but I am like actively learning about that right now as we go along. I've been in meetings last week and already this morning about this. And we had our first referral already after signing up today. So I could report back on how that goes.
That'll be great.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
I'm going to stop my slides so I can see you all. Okay.
All the questions. How many?
We got 3 minutes. I do have my stuff too, Sasha, which we care about both. But go ahead, please.
How many times
Thank you for
people who were presumptively eligible were later found to not be eligible?
During the pandemic, when we couldn't send people for testing, we had 5 people we presumed eligible who were all found not eligible, but only because they did not participate in completing the full eligibility determination, not because they were not appropriate. And so far, since the new rule just went into effect in May, so far we've only had a handful and they've all been eligible. And we've been able to move them pretty quickly to get it. We haven't had to use the full year to complete their eligibility. It's just taken like a month or 2 extra. And so far, all of them have been found eligible.
Looks like we lost Kim and then Lisa had to hop off.
Still have 4 members though, so we're still a quorum if need be. All right, on my side of eligibility and all this stuff and ways to foster homes and the thing, it's a traffic kind of thing, but I do need to learn more about host homes and how those are eligibility qualified as I move forward in the way of what we do as a council at Clackamas County. And understanding the differences of that versus group home versus the brokerages and other type of that. We don't need to get today, but I would like it in the notes that there is a curiosity on my edge in ways of trying to figure out the process of predetermined life versus the systems that we are changing towards the future.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
thank you. All right, OPA grants. Unless there, Michaela, sorry if I'm not saying your name right. Colleen, any other questions? All right, awesome. OPA grants, who wants to throw out the 41 OPA grants plus, a couple more that may come out?
Well, I just have a couple updates on the current grants that we're looking at. And I will make that really quick because we're already way over on time. The provider engagement project, which is the ARPA innovation grant that we already were rewarded. We are kind of right in the thick of that right now. We are doing listening sessions right now with our service coordinators, with our licensors, abuse investigations, and then also with residential and foster home providers. So that will be coming up shortly. And then from that, we will be starting our focus groups. And the focus groups or steering committees is where we will be, that will be the main task force to address whatever we uncover in these listening sessions. So if we find out there's certain themes that we need to work on, then that will be the group that addresses those particular issues and comes up with ways to some solutions for those. So that's well on its way. The emergency preparedness grant is, does anybody have any questions about the provider?
So I did notice when there was a request for the provider engagement that there were 2 spots for each provider, and those were all filled out in every session by the same individuals. And so what's happening is each listening session, you're only getting 2 providers total. Because when I went to go log on, it does fill up really quickly, but I noticed the same names were on every single listening session. So I don't know how that can be monitored better.
What are you talking about when you log on to fill out which ones you want to go to?
Yes, so the slots fill up like that.
They're not, I haven't assigned anybody yet.
When I went on to the Sign Up Genius to
Yeah, the Sign Up
sign up, they're full. You can no longer sign up, and it's
Oh.
the same, names. So like the individuals signed up for both sessions in each slot, the same people did. And I attempted to like send in an email, but it doesn't receive emails.
It's me.
Okay, go to her,
I mean, just email me.
Well, so that's what I,
So
what
that's
I
good to know,
noticed.
actually, so
Yeah.
that's something I can, Malika, you and I can work on that with the,
Yeah, that's an issue that a lot of people have on sign up genius community to get back in. They try to find a simple way to get signed up and usually get triple
well,
dip by,
the weird thing is there shouldn't be.
I'm not saying this particular issue, but sign up genie in particular.
People can sign up for session. And because I've been kicked out, even being able to sign up for anything.
Your name should be on sign up genius, though, if you put your full name, it's your name on it.
You can't click one of the little slots because there's only 2 slots available.
Yeah, you can only pick 2.
Yeah,
No, you can.
but there's jammed by the same people.
Sign up.
It's very, very common in state work and sign up genie.
Okay,
It's, you know, I could sign up as an advocate, I can sign up as a self-advocate, I can sign up as a, person with services, I can put my name on 3 times, 4 times. And who knows if I'm gonna be in the lottery or not, but it's just something that needs to be discussed on the city side, maybe whoever.
I will check in with you after, so you can show me from your kind of,
Please do.
whatever. Any other questions related to the provider engagement project?
On the focus groups, how do we know what can be eligible for those who are included when we ask as a council to be included in other conversations and it hasn't been done for over 8 months? So what I'm asking is, how do we know that there's gonna be really focus groups in a variety of fields? Like, when we've been asking for the hiring committee, for Stacy to be part of the hiring committee for so many months, how can I have confidence that your focus group will be completed in the most field when even as a council, we've been asking for months to be included into the hiring process or other groups likewise? I'm not saying that I need to be in a focus group, but how can you boost my confidence when it takes sometimes many months?
So for this particular project, this is for providers. This is specific to DD fostering group of providers, so we'll only really be looking at that group. And we don't actually have a criteria yet for who we will have sit on that main group. Right now, we're just trying to gain interest and see who is interested in that.
And I'll also take that concern also with what we just expressed into the focus groups and how you pick out who you may or may not be able to talk to. Thanks for pointing that out in the way of sign up genie or other methods.
I'm confused about what you're engaging them about. What are your questions for them?
Yeah, so we are talking about how to make the working relationship between county and providers better. We have a ton of new providers that have opened homes. A lot of them are culturally diverse. A lot of them are from the Ethiopian community. So what we're hoping to do is kind of bridge this gap. What we're finding is that the service coordinators are having to do a lot more than what is typically necessary or what is typically expected as far as like tech support or explaining paperwork or bringing a lot of people, as Stacey mentioned, transferring into the county. So just a lot, there's just a heavier workload that the service coordinators are having to carry. And then also on the flip side of that, providers are needing a little bit more support. So we're trying to kind of balance that out a little bit more and figure out where the disconnect is, whether it's in training, whether it's in the documentation requirements, whether it's in OERs, and I'm sure it's like a combination of all these things, but we're trying to kind of just make that working relationship a little bit smoother. Okay. Does that answer?
With just certain provider communities or providers as a whole? Because I do feel like maybe it's just for certain providers and not for all providers.
That's a good question. So we definitely want to hear from all providers. This specific project is focused on providers that have that additional kind of barrier with language and culture. And so we definitely want to hear from everybody. Everybody is welcome to the listening sessions.
we are gonna be specifically focusing on some of those additional barriers that our Ethiopian and other providers are experiencing.
And so I guess while I see that that's obviously important, in a way you're giving like extra training and extra support to just specific providers. So it's going to happen to other providers that would also benefit from the extra training and the extra support.
Well,
But don't fit in that category, so they don't receive that extra. So when it comes to like licensing time or criterias, well, this group's doing great, but now the ball's been dropped on this side just because there wasn't a language barrier.
no, I totally get that. And I think that's why we want to hear from everybody. So we do really want to hear from everybody. We do know that, you know, when you don't speak English and you didn't grow up in, you know, in the States, like you will have additional barriers that you have to face. And so we are focusing on that. Having said that, you bring up a great point. A lot of this, whatever we find, and I'm just giving examples, I don't know exactly what we're gonna find yet because we haven't had the listening sessions. But we do imagine that like there's gonna be a lot of stuff that we'll be able to help with that's gonna help everybody. Getting stuff into plain language, getting stuff, you know, if we need to clarify things on our end, our processes or forms or something. I don't know what we're gonna find just yet, but it will, I think it's a great point. And we do want to hear from everybody. So I would encourage you and others to join.
Any questions on this in ways that we have 20 minutes, one more topic and give or take open floor? No? Is this in togetherness of Pop 105 at all? Or is this too close as the law has been passed in ways of providers and immigrants?
I'm not familiar with that.
What I mean is, DHS services are now easier for those who are immigrants and other situations. Will this data help out that type of policy point in ways of the grant at hand, given its boundaries of the grant?
I'm not sure. I guess it depends on how it's shared. This grant that we were awarded is specifically for Clackamas County and for us to improve our relationship
No problem.
with providers. So I'm not sure.
Hopefully one language system can be multi-language, ideal later on as we continue to work there. All right,
I'm gonna go one
please. Please do.
as far as the emergency preparedness. So we are in the process of applying for that grant. And with that one, it's a little bit more, I guess, sort of more straightforward. So that one will be generators for residential or family homes where continuous access to power is necessary for ventilators and other critical medical equipment. So we don't know what that looks like yet, but that is one possibility. The other thing that we're looking into is emergency kits. So, and that's for people in services. Anybody in services is eligible for the kit. And so right now we're looking into types of kits, suppliers, costs, what people need and how we can customize the kits, what that's going to take to look into that and figure out what people need, all of that. So that is kind of at the beginning of in the beginning stages. So just so you all know, that's where that's at.
Have you guys connected with Portland General Electric on that? Because I think that they have a similar program for medically fragile folks to get generators or batteries or something.
Yeah, I can, like we get in the notes that we can to connect with PGE.
Yeah, and I too would like to note on outside resources that can help the critical need in particular and beyond. It's very important to know those outside community partners also. And thank you for pointing that out in ways that could help, because that is something that's outside of my hearing aid, charger thing. It's a little thing that often, there's more serious situations that need to be researched as we go through this grant. If it, for me being self-determined, when other people have those type of things too, what you just mentioned, I was worried about generation and power path, stuff like that for you guys. And yes, I think that's all I had on that one. Any other grants that we need to look for OPA in the Oregon Vice process?
That's the only two I have updates for today. I can give updates. Brooke is really doing the bulk of the work for the emergency preparedness.
Yeah.
But
I think people, at least client-wise or county-wise, have to realize these are basic things. It's not gonna be your cooking or a gold little coin in something, just keep it focused. And straws, certain straws might be needed. But, you know, other things might need to be considered or explained to clients. Okay. So ask Kane. I have no clue who this person is and why is it relate to emergency?
Ash Kane is the ODDS emergency management person. And so we had talked about while we were planning that we wanted to have her as a guest. And so before we ask her to be a guest at our meeting, we'd like to come up with some questions that we might have for her. So I don't know if this is something we want to table or if we want to do that now.
Something to think about maybe in a next meeting in ways that, you know, it may come in. Or other conversations that people have already had with her in ways that I have not, but you know, maybe you guys have met. Fair Boys does not really answer on the ODDS side. So this person right here, knowing how he passes the, you know, the department chain is the next person that I just got this information a couple of days ago, so it's not like it's a preconceived idea. But you know, it's something that I would like to try to understand for Clackamas County. Definitely when fire danger came where we can't own two vehicles. And where, you know, an RV was easier to park at, you know, this Clackamas Town Center. Versus, you know, being, you know, in a car, you know, traveling around town. So those are certain situations, ice storms, power outages, which was a big worry of mine. In ways, and how to handle, you know, our daily calls from, you know, broker services when, you know, red alert comes, but we might not have power to where we are. So, you know, that type of communication was important for me to bring this person, or Lisa also is gonna bring, was it her husband or another emergency preparedness for next meeting. So if you guys have any ideas or questions to propose to them before they come in, we'd love to hear.
Maybe we can, for the sake of time, maybe we can email questions to me. Does that
That's fine.
sound like a good idea?
Fine, we have 15 minutes for open floor, so we're pretty much done after this. So we can either have a conversation or just email it to you. So yeah, if you guys have any ideas, definitely, I would love a young adult perspective in certain ways, Sarah, Schwazak, you know, in ways of, you know, maybe, you know, certain situations that might be your perspective, like the kid side, love the foster home side, love, you know, the high school side, if someone gets stuck at the high school, you know, kind of thing of, you know, transition programs and other ideas on how we can move forward in communication with state services, county programs and all. Oh, poor Kim. Sorry for saying that out loud in public record. All right.
I think you're okay.
That's on me. So yeah, I would love to hear the perspective on Ashton ways that other voices might be heard over the county in ways of going to the state. And maybe other people can have opportunities to talk and prepare for this and talk to Clackamas County, that communication dialogue. Any questions on that?
Quick question, sorry if I missed this, but what role does Ash Kane have in the emergency preparedness? Like,
Great question. I actually don't.
Yeah, I know Lisa had something with them, you know, recently, but I don't know what role she does.
like what level?
I don't know.
Stacey, I think you can answer, right?
Well, I mean, she is the emergency coordinator for ODDS. What she's actively working on, I don't really know if I know the answer to that. So, we've
It
met
might
with her.
address our question.
Yeah, I think it would help.
We met with her one time to just, I think really what we did was we debriefed previous emergencies. Like, what was your experience? Maybe what, because there's, I guess ODDS was thinking, well, how do we get more prepared, right? For an emergency. And she was gathering the information. She was traveling around the state, hearing from like what our experience was, what we might need. And that's it. That's the only interaction that we've had as a county program. But aside from her trying to help get us connected with the GIS mapping, which I would not say we're fully integrated. I think I'm the only one still who can log in and I don't know how to use it. So, but I think I mean, I think we could benefit from knowing what she's working on, what like what her role is, what we could expect, maybe in an emergency. I'm not really sure. And if I ask her to come speak, I mean, I think if that's what we want, like,
I think we
what
have
is your role
questions.
with the ODDS? Maybe she has questions for the council. Like, I'm not really sure. I absolutely can invite her. I just want to make sure I know what to tell her to expect if she comes, if that makes sense.
Is there an idea in the room or out there that maybe why we should bring this person in? Because I have my own thing, but like I said, it's only been a couple of days since I've been told this information and ways of how to communicate with emergencies and the department.
I guess, my only input from, my wheelhouse as adult foster care is that I would like to know if there is a better plan after COVID. Because I understand that, it was a whirlwind, but so is every emergency, right? And so when there were supplies that were supposed to be given to adult foster homes and probably group homes as well, like test kits and hand sanitizers and things like that, they came way after. I mean, I applied for a couple boxes of test kits and sanitizing, and I want to say 8 months later, they arrived on my doorstep when it wasn't so relevant because they were in the stores again. So I guess my question or my biggest concern is now that we're 3 years past, and I mean, since the beginning, obviously, so at least a year, to be able to think about it, what advances have been done, if any?
That's a great question.
That would be my thought.
What better federal approach, maybe, sorry, raising my hand. What better federal approach and county approaches can be as we move forward with other ODHS priorities. I think that's my one of my biggest things, because yeah, it's pretty nerve-wracking, self-determined wise, not getting any information and how to, contact certain PAs, SCs and certain other aspects. And yeah, I mean, I'm not looking for bomb shelters. I can deal with that anxiety with other people later on, but in that bomb shelter just for you guys, nuclear disasters, I heard something on their voice. Yeah, on the holistic DHS side. So I believe I heard them say that. So that's why we can go little, we can go big, Stacy, but let's try to get something. And that would be great for us to move forward in the conversation. And Lisa has a guest that I would like to not introduce, but if someone can refer back to what Lisa's guest suggestion is, that he could come in ways of how that could help services. I think that would wrap up this part of the conversation.
I think Lisa was gonna have her husband who works for TVFR talk about the GIS system. Was that what it was, I think?
Yeah, and everyone here know what GIS is and all that stuff outside of those who work in the system?
What's the difference between GIS and GPS?
Thank you.
Great question. I don't have the answer, but essentially it can tell a map of where all of the emergencies are in like real time.
Thank you.
Oh, okay, cool.
Is how I understand it in my simple terms.
No. I appreciate that question because, we try to figure out where we can go with the conversation. All right, I think we'll open the floor and we're 10 minutes early.
I do have one thing,
Okay,
if you guys don't
okay.
have other things.
No, please. Yeah, unless the council has already said so.
Brendan Durbin, who is our social services director, is creating a service equity committee for social services, which will include members of different councils in our division. And she wants to know who might be interested. A few things they'll be doing. The primary role, I'm just gonna read this. The primary role of the Service Equity Committee is to assist social services with implementing service equity plans by engaging with traditionally underserved communities, reviewing equity-related reports, and providing input on future plan updates. So for example, reviewing our client feedback reports semi-annually, reviewing reports from Ants Farm, which is a Latin outreach. Getting the get care reports on how people find out about aging services. Review reports on why people leave services.
review annual report on client demographics and changes from previous year. Review the annual report on staff and applicant demographics. And then one member will be assigned to represent the committee on ODHS State Level Service Equity Committee. So I would say if you are interested, or if that sounds like that might be something that you want to learn more about, you can reach out to me and I will pass your name along to Brenda.
It's a place that we can post on that if we have questions on like governor boards or other quality information things that we can go to get that type of information while we try to improve other systems, or it's just Clackamas County only.
I think this is just Clackamas County. It's just our county.
Any questions on that? And those who may or may not want to join, email you.
Email me, yeah, and I'll forward your name to Brenda or.
I would advise them, they're gonna treat us like consultants, we should be paid. And I will definitely halfway meet in the middle of that type of conversation.
I think that's a fair ask.
So, give or take, you know, what level of pay, but you know, for those who are on asset limit control or not, but. You're gonna hire someone from Florida and you're gonna hire someone here locally, it should be noted that, you know, we should still have those type of conversations where give or take expertise in what we've experienced.
Absolutely. Oh, new chat, let's see, somebody's saying something. Oh, her internet went out.
Alright,
Okay. Sorry.
alright, open floor. Anyone have any good to the order? I do, but if no one does, alright. You have any good to the order? For me, I've been blessed with an education, as some people know out in the community. And unfortunately, there was a coach that passed away at Milwaukee High School this last couple of weeks. In ways that I did not know him personally, but I know a lot of the coaches that have supported me in my education in ways of leadership, following people, and even just being there no matter what in ways of winning or losing. Milwaukee, I love you, you know, and everything, but we can smile about that, but the truth is those who really support those men and women are someone that we should also realize and be grateful for who we can be for in education. I understand people with disabilities may not always have those opportunities. But one thing I noticed about 3 weeks ago was with this guy who passed away, but he was still there. I mean, of course, he's been there for 20 years and beyond. But the cool thing was he did not have a microphone. He did not have a loudspeaker. He did not have anything while walking the ground to the football game. Well, Milwaukee was totally pouncing on Putnam that day, which was nice to see. But what I'm trying to point out is I was talking to a young coach or whatnot, and it said, so nice that we respect our elders and those who have been around. And I wanted to point out my hope for the future for all kids and their kids' futures, with or without disability, the importance of someone that contributed like this young man, or the older man who passed away now, and unfortunately way too soon. But I do want to point out for the good of the order that, with those who have supported myself or others with disabilities, to keep on telling those type of stories, and hopefully as we get older, as our microphones get thinner or our canes get bigger, we can still, have that support win or loss. So thanks for listening. I appreciate that. But even though I did not know the man that passed away, it's great to know that there's hope for the future, hopefully in other areas as we continue our educational life. Sarah, please.
Just really quickly, sorry, John, that really resonates with me because, well, first of all, I just want to encourage everyone, if you have a young child, to sign them up for unified sports in the schools, because that was an incredible program for my daughter. And talking about the coach, I was scrolling through my phone trying to find a photo really quick, because her case manager for 4 years at Westland High School was also the unified basketball coach.
Yeah.
And he is now teaching at Lake Ridge Middle School. He moved from special ed into wellness. But I still send him photos of Marissa all the time. I still share things that she's doing, and just such there are I mean, we all know this, there are incredible people out there that just really affect positive change in our kids' lives. And thank you, John, for that. Appreciate that.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm hoping that we find a way to in unified sports as a whole into the district programs. There's some conflict of, interest over there, but it's a great program and we need more examples like that. And hopefully we can transfer them to the state program and other county programs and other ideas. So it is important. Thank you for your story, sir. All right. Any other goods or orders in life? Anyone want to call for an order to adjourn from the meeting 3 minutes early or 2 minutes early?
For adjournment.
All right, I second that. Voting yes. That's good. All right. You guys have a great one. If you guys have any other topics, please, refer to Amy and we can put them in traffic or where we can put it for the meeting. Okay? Thank you guys for your time and effort. It means a lot.
Thanks, everybody. Great to see
Take care.
you again. Thank
all.
you.
You guys.